Hi, welcome to PunchlineGloucester.com. Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happened in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But before I start, just want to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, let's meet the panel. We've got David Jones, he's the MD of Evans Jones, Cheltenham Property and Planning Consultants. The government has been messing around with planning since they've got into the office. So we'll find out from him what's going on and what's next, what's coming down the tracks from our expert there. We've got Simon King. He's the head of external business relations at Hartpury University and College. Simon helped raise the 2.5 funds to support the agri-tech ambitions and the new tech box park. So we'll find out how it's all gone. What he's been up to since he was last on, and what's next for the high-flying Hartpury. And last not least, we've got Ian Meaney's the Director of Business West, ex-editor of the Citizen, Echo, Western Daily Press newspapers. Ian sits on various boards across the county. So I find out from him what he thinks is the big issues coming down the tracks for 2025. Okay, let's have a look at what's making the headlines, courtesy of the BBC today. No apology, we're only bringing our daughter back. That's the headline of the Daily Express. We got the Metro, hounded to her death. Army comes under the spotlight at inquest. The Guardian, don't be fooled by Putin. Lamy warning as Ukraine tensions rise. The Eye, Starmer under pressure to raise defence spending to 3%. Financial Times, Washington opposes phased Russian aggression in G7 Ukraine statement. The Sun, cough up you. The Times, Starmer offer youth visa scheme for Europe. The Daily Telegraph, trans doctors given clean records. The Daily Star, scorcho with a bit of snow. The Daily Mail, don't let big tech steal UK's creative genius. And the Mirror, 700,000 reasons to smile. Okay, it sounds like a lot more promises to me from the Labour Party. But let's get on with you, Ian. Into the show. What have you picked out from the papers, please?
Well, one story is dominating everywhere, and that is Ukraine. And the Eye this morning, their main headline: Starmer under pressure to raise defence spending to 3%. Keir Starmer's going to see Trump next week, but he's been upstaged a bit because Macron is going to see him before. And the Telegraph front page says Macron to challenge Trump over weakness towards Russia. I like the piece in the Eye also by Alison Phillips. She's the former editor of the Mirror, who basically says it may be time to bring back Boris. Why? Because basically both Boris and Trump are fairly economic with the truth, she says. Those dominate the papers. I'm very interested in, as a James Bond fan, the fact that the founders of the Bond franchise have sold out to Bezos, Amazon. It poses the fact: are we going to get more James Bonds, which aren't as good? I think we are, frankly. Those are sort of a quick run through. And I want to also, perhaps even a bit later, talk about a piece by Sir Richard Sharif. Your listeners may remember that Sir Richard was the former commander of the Allied Protection Force based at Innsmouth. He's a former Deputy Supreme Allied Commander in Europe. And he's written a piece in the Daily Mail yesterday, basically saying Trump's left us no choice but to make plans for conscription, which is a hot potato.
Right, okay, thanks ever so much for that roundup. It definitely is. When I was in the forces, the last thing on earth we wanted was conscription. We didn't want people in the forces who didn't want to be there. It's quite simple as that, really. You know, we got professional army, professional air force, professional military. Okay, David, great to see you again. Thanks for joining the show, as always. What have you picked out from the papers, please, sir?
Well, I think the James Bond one is an interesting one, and obviously Ian's picked up on that, and it's covered in all of the papers, broadsheet and red top. I suppose my concern is with Bezos taking it over, or Bezos, and moving to America. Is Trump going to be the next 007? I mean, you could see it happening. He's such a narcissist that he would put himself up. But there we are. Just throw that out there. Watch that space. I tried to find some positive news, as you know, Mark. It's but very difficult in today's press, particularly today with everything that's going on. But I did find something in the Times and the Guardian. Consumer confidence on the rise. So it seems interest rate cuts have revived consumer confidence. I mean, I think this is from a pretty low base, and I think it's probably the economy not doing as badly as people expected, rather than doing a lot better. But certainly the recruiting stats are positive, more positive than they have been for at least a year, and certainly consumer confidence is improved. Although, obviously, as Ian alluded to, we have got coming down the track the NIC issue for businesses in April. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out in terms of growth as the year goes on. But perhaps not as devastating as it could be, I guess, is the headline there. The other one I picked up was from the Telegraph. Will artificial intelligence make us all dumber? And researchers, I mean, we've always got researchers, haven't we, noted that AI used improperly can result in deterioration of cognitive faculties, that ought to be preserved. So a concern that too many people are resorting to AI, and certainly as a business owner, you'd be amazed how many CVs I get across my desk, which are evidently written or certainly rewritten by AI. You become quite adept at recognizing AI speak and the flowery language it uses, and it doesn't look natural. And I'm getting quite good at spotting it a mile off. So if somebody's putting that in a CV, then it's of concern. So anybody watching who's looking for a job, write your own CV. Don't put it through AI. Would be my advice.
So I just want to add there, my other thing would be about AI is don't do your bloody press releases on them, because it's driving us absolutely bonkers here. Absolutely. Don't even go there, mate.
Who's doing that, Mark? Name names.
Loads of them. PR agency, everybody thinks they can drop off something in AI and it's written and it's shite. I'm very sorry, just saying it.
No, you go for it.
Sorry.
And I think, as you know, I'm a keen cyclist. I do lots of cycling. I'm doing a charity cycle in March to Dublin, and I've just bought a new coat, very expensive coat that doesn't look like a high visibility jacket, but it is when headlights hit it. Unfortunately, researchers have shown that these high-vis jackets are not seen by high-tech cars. So, we have so much tech in our cars that recognise, risks on the road and slam the brakes on. Unfortunately, they're not recognising these high-vis jackets. So, as a cyclist, it's of concern for me, Mark.
No, without a shadow of doubt. You stick to golf, mate, like me. It's a lot safer. Thanks ever so much, Dave. I actually bought a very expensive golf jacket as well. That didn't need to be high-vis, but there we go.
I've seen you play golf, Mark. I think it should be high-vis.
Simon, great to see you again. Great to have you on the show. What have you picked out from the papers?
Good to see you as well, Mark. Well, I grabbed 3 papers this morning. One of my favourites of many, many years, the Western Daily Press, obviously not the national, but something more local. So if I start there, I've then got the Daily Mail and I've got the Guardian. So pulled out a few articles from there. Interesting one, those people that was up and down the M4, I spotted on page 9 all about 14,000 people caught speeding on the M4 on the smart motorway section there between junctions 19 and 20. So it's like driving under some Christmas lights as people whiz down there and overtaking you and flashing the lights or flashing the speed camera lights as they whiz down that motorway. So just a little bit of probably a good idea to keep the speed limit on a smart motorway. So that's in the Western Daily Press. And the other one, actually, sort of slightly earlier on in the pages, was about farmers. Obviously, as a agriculturalist, it's about actually the number of dog attacks on livestock in the NFU. Put a value on that is sort of £250,000 worth of livestock lost due to dog attacks. So it's a worrying thing about dogs and their control of them and whether on leads or not. And obviously, as a dog owner, you can sort of see both sides of it, but also a farmer as well. So just quite a large article actually about that and the economic cost of that, and the ongoing tensions between public access and the countryside and all that sort of thing. So it's a fairly serious article, but nevertheless an interesting one. It's still topical, of course, and ongoing. So that was that on the Western Daily Press. Got into the Guardian, and one I picked up on last night actually was this blindness in children, and this world first operation in terms of the gene therapy and injecting these genes to cure this disease called LCA. Which causes vision loss in children, and the basic certificated as blind from birth. And I thought, wow, the level of technology and what surgeons can do nowadays is fascinating. And some of the things that we all got these big world problems, and Ian's touched on those, but actually at the end of the day it gets down to people and these real game-changing things that surgeons can do, and I just find that fascinating. In the same paper, in terms of fascination, is when holes appear in the middle of nowhere, and all this national press of this sinkhole. Quite amusing, really, in terms of the poor town of Godstone. That is actually apparently that drones, helicopters. Got this lady can't even walk a dog in peace now without all the national media attention of this hole that's appeared in the middle of the street. So, and then there's all this skepticism about what's caused it and everything else. In 17th century mines apparently underneath all these houses. So the world of David development, is what's deep down under the ground, really, I think. And you start building, and all these houses we have to build, where are we going to build them? I think we talk about floodplains, but we don't talk about what's a few more, 100 meters under the ground. So that was just an interesting one. It's slightly more light-hearted, I hope, than anything else that's going on. And then the Mail, let's finish on that one, if that's okay. We all talk about the green jobs, and on the inside of the Mail, Miliband wrong to say net zero will boost jobs, says Blair think tank. And I thought, that's quite interesting, and we got what Trump's saying and America first and all this sort of thing, and we keep saying the green agenda. There's an interesting article. I've not read it in depth yet, but I thought, I'll have a good look at that, because where do we get this balance between environmental and net zero and all those targets against drill, baby, drill, that sort of approach. And then I thought, this is interesting. Why emus are no bird brains, except for Rod Hull's puppets. So basically, there's been some research looking at emus, ostriches, etc., and which is the brighter of the actual species. So that was amusing one on the bottom of page 5 of the Mail.
Okay, thanks so much. Is that another bit of research that someone got paid for to do? There's a lot of research done. I don't know where all these sinkholes are suddenly popping up all over the place. I can't remember sinkholes when I was being funny here. I can't remember sinkholes being all over the place when I was younger. No. It's a kind of new thing, isn't it? Maybe there's something bigger, deeper going on here that I don't know about. I don't know. But lots of heavy lorries. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to the main story of the day, which sounds very, very sad, is James Bond. Because let's be honest, they're going to absolutely rip the heart out of James Bond, aren't they? And they're just going to squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it to make as much money out of it as possible. And we're all going to be over bonded. I could just see it already. Anyway, okay, I think that's a big issue. But what's a big issue for businesses in Gloucester coming down the tracks, mate?
Coming down the track, the NI situation in April, 15% hike is the big one. I think what we need to understand, Mark, is that in Gloucestershire, we've got literally just under 30,000 SMEs, small and medium businesses. Of that, a high percentage are micros. That's 0 to 9 people. In Gloucester, we've got just over 5,000 of those. Forest of Dean, just over 4. So if this government is going to get growth, in my humble opinion, I'm not an economist, surely you've got to give some sort of support to businesses like this. The big businesses like Renishaw, whatever, can survive. But the small businesses who want to invest They're the people who are the lifeblood of this county, and they need support. They're not going to be taking people on. So I think that is a big situation. Planning, your guest is the expert here, but I went to a planning forum a week ago, which I found very interesting. But to me, business, of all the things that the Labour Party have done and haven't done, planning is possibly their best idea. And there seems to be a little progress on that. Planning for business means we've got to have proper lists by our district councils that show where the sites are that they can invest in. So planning is going to be pretty important. The other thing is the whole situation of local government, so-called devolution. This is very complex, but in a nutshell, there are two basic arguments here. One is to have one Gloucestershire, the whole lot, so all the district councils, the 6 district councils disappear. And then there's another idea of dividing it into east and west. What I'm hearing is, in terms of partnership with people, we all thought that perhaps Worcestershire and Herefordshire might partner Gloucestershire. I'm now hearing that there's an enthusiasm to partner Wecker in Bristol. And that makes a bit of sense because a lot of businesses look towards Bristol. This is going to take, I think, 2.5, 3 years to sort out. It's very complex, but it's important. But for the council taxpayer, what are they interested in? When are the bins going to be collected? This sort of basic stuff. But there's a lot of talk about how local government can be reorganised. Will it be more efficient? That's another question.
The big thing for me is why partner with Bristol? I mean, Bristol have absolutely nothing to do with us. We're a rural county, and they would be self-serving. They would just look after their own people. It'd be absolutely huge. I just don't get it myself. I don't get the whole thing. There's enough stuff going on in the whole world. They don't need to do this now. Let's sort out all these other problems, you know. Thanks ever so much for that, Ian. I'm going to bring David in, obviously, about planning, Dave. It's a big issue, isn't it? You're at the forefront of it.
It's massive. Yeah, and there was a lot of rhetoric prior to the July election from all the political parties. We'll build 1.5 million, 1.9 million, all of them jousting for position as to how many homes they thought they could deliver during the term. Labour were pretty vocal on how they would do that. They said they would relax Greenbelt policy and create this new grey belt status. They've done it. So they've published a new national policy framework in December, which has swept away, in many cases, 70 years of green belt protection in areas where local authorities are failing to deliver sufficient land for housing. Interesting what Ian mentions about local authorities planning. For Fend, a local authority actually planning something, that would be great. But this week we've seen Stroud District Council draft local plan. The inspectorate have invited them to withdraw that plan because it's not considered to be deliverable. That will put it back another 2 years. So, we are in a position where we've got most of the local authorities with out-of-date plans. The planning system in terms of producing local plans, which is, yes, how we should be delivering new housing. It should be planned, it should be allocated, but it's behind the curve. So we will be back to an appeal-led system, top-down policy and decisions made by the inspectorate, the planning inspectorate, rather than at local level. I agree that's not a good thing, but if local authorities don't deliver sufficient housing quickly enough, then perhaps that's the only option we have. So we'll see how that pans out over the coming months. Obviously, it's very, very new. We're only 2 months into it now, but we are seeing appeal decisions come through that are allowing greenbelt schemes which would have had no chance prior to December of getting consent. So it's certainly producing planning approvals, which is good. As you know, Mark, I have concerns about the SME developer market. In 1988, 4 out of 10 homes were built by SME developers. By 2017, that had dropped to about 1.2. Homes out of every 10 were built by SMEs. I think that has dropped probably to sub 1 out of 10 now and continues to decline. And the SME developer market is being hammered. And that's by regulatory control, by more and more financial obligations being placed at the door of SME developers, and those developers taking, in comparison with the big national developers, a disproportionate burden. I've written to Angela Rayner expressing my concerns, and my local MP. I've not had a response from either as yet, but I'll let you know as soon as a letter lands.
Surely, David, if you don't have your individual business builders, you're not going to get your individual building that houses. If you know, they're all going to look the same. Wimpy, New London Homes. They all Linden Homes. All those guys, they're all very much of a muchness, aren't they?
They all have their place, but historically, SME developers have built, quality homes. They've pushed the boundaries in terms of, sustainability and efficiency, and they fulfil, a gap in the market. Not everybody wants to live on a large housing estate. I agree, and building out those small pockets of land, it's ideally done by SME developers, but they are being priced out of the market through legislation and burden of various bits, including biodiversity net gain, which I know we've spoken about.
I mean, yeah, watch David's interview about biodiversity gain as well. Well worth a watch, David. I don't think they're going to hit the 1.5 million homes. Not a chance in hell.
I think
David,
they've got a
very
hope in hell,
quickly.
Mark.
Not a hope in hell. Ian,
No.
1.5 million very quickly. Do you think they'll hit it? Ian, can you hear me?
You faded, Mark. Then
Say it again, Mark.
I asked, do you think the government will hit its 1.5 million homes target?
never in a million years. No, not at all.
Simon,
Mark.
can you hear me as well?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Do you think the government will hit its 1.5 million homes?
Well, hopefully it's a moving target, because as time ticks on, it becomes more and more per year, doesn't it? And they've never done it before. So in terms of the annual construction targets, so no. But actually, I was listening to an interview where one of the big builders, I probably shouldn't quote them anyway, but they basically said, yeah, the industry can deliver. We could actually deliver those targets. But of course, it's the usual planning, the timeline, everything else. But the industry, the construction house builders, have the capacity to deliver that target, apparently, if given the rein to do it.
You just can't see it. There's not enough plumbers, electricians. There's not enough people. There's not enough bricks. I keep going on about the bricks. I mean, it's just not enough. Simon, anyway, thanks.
If I just come in very, very quickly on delivering 1.5 million homes, yes, possibly it could be, but I think people forget that developers are businesses, they're commercial organisations, and it needs to be underpinned by a good, strong economy and interest rates at a level where people are encouraged to buy and take out mortgages. If those conditions aren't right, houses don't get built. However many consents we approve or achieve, if the economic conditions aren't right, developers won't build because they won't be able to sell.
Totally agree. And let's be honest, the economy is tough. It's tough out there. Simon, let's talk about Hartpury College. And how's it going with your agri-tech now and the new build? What's going on?
Well, the college and university together, obviously, they're going well. Yep, student numbers are good, and we're always many interview days going on, open days, etc. So I was trying to drive in yesterday, and there were cars piling out in terms of people coming to a sports open day. So yeah, looking good and positive, but of course challenges as well broadly across the university, specifically the agri-tech, which I'll come on to in a minute, not the agricultural side. In that, yeah, governments or the student fee cap and the challenge of that in relation to that being static for so many years now, the small percentage increase just recently, but still a challenge in the Office for Students pushing out figures now in terms of those universities that are going to return a deficit 24, 25, 25, 26, and that is an increase in percentage. So across the, let's call it the industry, but the sector, as in universities, it's an increasing challenge in terms of the rising costs that you've touched on here, from national insurance, from everything that these institutions have got to cover. And then obviously they're talking about actually how the liquidity of the businesses, that's again increasing. And this apparently is in Hartpury being a small, well, I say small and specialist in the terms of bigger universities, the red bricks and Russell groups, this is proportionately affecting our specialist institutions. And Ian spends a lot of time championing the university cause for Gloucestershire in the context of local, in terms of University of Gloucestershire, the Royal Gloucestershire University, as well as Hartpury, and how we need to, look at that and keep those conversations going in amongst all the devolution debate, Ian, and how long that, is going to take before we have confidence in terms of how these institutions actually help our local economy, let alone our own core business, which is the student recruitment. Hartpury unique, of course, in terms of being a university and a college on the same campus, with its 5 specialist areas. The one I often spend, disproportionate time probably on is agriculture and agri-tech. That obviously being a priority in our local growth plans, in a good priority area for our local economy. Had great investment, as you mentioned in the introduction, from the LEP and of course Gloucestershire County Council in the past, and how we're growing that in our latest project, which bolts onto the Tech Box Park and everything the Agri-Tech Centre is doing through what we call our digital innovation farm. So digitalising agriculture, the future is technology, and people could challenge me on that, but I think that's generally the right perspective, and it's certainly driven by government as well for various agri-tech strategies. And we've been working with the River 7 Partnership just recently, last year, on advanced wireless connectivity, 5G in other words, really, but other spectrums, and how we can actually get that out into the rural industries, in the generic term, but specifically agricultural business. And we've now invested in a mobile 5G unit, which is a trailer, and we can take it. It's available for people that want to get some, so events or shows or specific things that businesses want to do and want, hyper speed connectivity wirelessly, of course. So that device will be available, and it's been funded through Department of Science and Innovation Technology, through the River 7 Partnership, which is a great partnership and obviously focused around the River 7, but they got this funding last year, in fact the year before officially, but the project was run last year mainly to actually promote this, and that's why I'm mentioning it now really. We've got an event coming up at Hartpury, let's get the right date, it's the 12th of March, what we call our Farm Forward events. So where we're going to show all the technology coming to Hartpury, our new robotic milkers, all the technology we're putting into the farm, and the sort of things that you can do with tech, and obviously with the economic and business benefits of that in terms of efficiency and labour saving and improved business decision making and all that sort of stuff is positive. So yeah, plenty going on, Mark. Yeah. And
okay, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's such a fantastic place. It really is. Always takes my breath away how huge it is and how diverse and everything that you cover as well. Well, we could talk forever about that, but we just don't have the time. We are short of time, really. We're going to rattle through, but the pick of the punchlines. Ian, what have you picked out for punchline, please?
Right, the story you've been really covering well, the whole Podsmead development situation and the money involved. I mean, that's the sort of story that if I was back editing The Citizen, I'd be absolutely crucifying some of these politicians. You've done a great job on it. Keep going. That's a very good story. It's an area that has been much maligned for years and years. It's a great area with a great community. So you're doing a great job there. Keep it up.
Thanks, Ian. David, what have you picked out, please? You got your mic off? Dave, have you got your mic off?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's two stories really. Mark, the closure of Coat on Gloucester Quays, and then to flip that, more big brands revealed for Cotswold Designer Outlet. Obviously, Coat is on the back of Fat Face closing, TGI Fridays closing at the Quays. So you do wonder whether there's going to be a shift of momentum from the Quays to the outlet village, and what impact that will have on the viability of the Quays going forward, and perhaps Gloucester, Cheltenham, Tewkesbury. So it's a concerning undertone. Obviously, on the Quays, the food dock seems to be attracting good operators, so it's not all negative news. But for me, it always felt like the food and beverage offering at the Quays was the bit that worked really well. So it's disturbing when we are seeing some closures there. So that's what I picked out.
No? Okay, thank you very much. I just want to say the good thing about the Quays also, looking at Coots, is that there's Dr. Foster's, Setabello, Greek on the docks, obviously the food dock. There's some good offerings now in Gloucester. Never before we've become such a good foodie place. It's exciting. Thanks for that, David. Simon, very quickly, pick up the punchlines, please.
Loads to go at, Mark. Obviously, good feeds all the time from yourselves. But the one I pulled out, Hartpury, Adam Henderson was there on Wednesday talking about mental health awareness for a workshop they're running there at our agri-tech centre. Those who don't know Adam, he's BBC Countryfile presenter, local farmer, real advocate of the agricultural industries. In my view, doesn't get enough profile. He's a great guy, what he's doing from rare breeds to obviously all the work that he's doing in terms of his own farming business, and an advocate for the industry. But one of his things he's championing is actually mental health awareness in the farming in the rural communities. It's an ongoing issue. And I mentioned technology earlier. The more technology we get, the more lone working we get. And obviously all those challenges that come with that. So great event and a real cause for people. And there's some great organisations in Gloucestershire supporting people as well. So just to highlight that without getting into a bit too much detail.
Okay. Thanks very much. He is a great guy as well. I've met him loads of times, obviously. Thank you very much for that. My pick of the punchline has to be the mess that was Podsmead. We just hope that they can make sure that they get the £20 million government funding there and they don't actually let it slip between their fingers. And politicians need to just get a grip and get it moving forward, for Christ's sake. Thank you ever so much for my wonderful panel who've joined us this morning. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. My wonderful sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. And if you like the show, please join us next week. We'll be back again. But until then, it's all in the punchline. Thank you. Bye.